What's a missed opportunity that you really regret? When I had just turned 18, my dad was taken to hospital. He was admitted to intensive care unit for pyelonephritis, kidney infection. I went to go visit him. He was hooked up to the machines and had multiple IV lines. I really wanted to hug him, but I didn't because I was afraid I would tug on the lines and hurt him. He died 2 hours later. I have never regretted anything more in my life. I took care of my mom for her last 7 years and she died peacefully holding my hand. I still have about 12,000 regrets about it. You went to the hospital. You were there and cared about your dad enough to not want to hurt him by hugging him. It was enough. Sounds like you were a very good kid. Telling one girl how I really felt about her before she stopped talking to me. Not in a romantic way, I just think she needed to hear what a crap person she was and understand the full extent of my hatred towards her. Something different to the standard responses. Well done, have an upvote. Driving a steam train. I was raised on Thomas the Tank Engine books and wanted to be a train driver since I was 3. My parents took us to a steam festival where they had a length of track and a narrow gauge engine set up and were letting people drive the train from one end to the other. It was a dream come true. My dad refused to come with me, so I joined the queue on my own. 5 minutes in I realized I was the only female and the only person under 30. The rest of the queue and people walking past were giving me some odd looks. I was a horribly self-conscious 15-year-old and started feeling so uncomfortable I freaked out and ran back to my parents. I've always regretted it. Getting to know my grandfather better before he passed. I was a stupid adolescent teen who preferred playing video games than talking with his grandfather when he was at our place. Spend some time with your grandparents, or anyone from your family for that matter. They may have some important things to teach you, and if they don't, then that's okay too. I feel this, but it's not too late for me and I have to take the opportunity now. I spent all my money to move away from my home in Montana and attend court of a massage school in Las Vegas. They closed the school around the middle of the program and now I'm stuck here and can't seem to earn enough money to go home or attend a different massage school. I saw an opportunity and took it. It didn't work. Don't regret that. You saved up and took a chance to do something you wanted to. Through no fault of your own it didn't work out. Shoot. The big mistake would have been not taking this opportunity and wandering for the rest of your life. Had an opportunity to join the Mi-5 spy agency in London but turned it down to go sell didgeridoos in Australia instead, lol. A girl I liked took me to her bedroom, turned off the light to show me her lava lamp and locked her bedroom door. We chatted for a while and then I went home. Another time, a girl called me into her bedroom and was wearing lingerie with her mother nearby. I laughed and left. I was a stupid kid. It's a double-edged sword for me, but never really using social media. I pretty much grew up online in the 90s. The biggest rule on the internet in the early days was never to dox yourself entirely, so I was always careful. So careful that I poo-pooed the very idea of Facebook and other personalized social media. So I never had one because it went against everything I believed in. Fast forward to today where virtually everyone has it. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. My circle of friends has dwindled down to whoever has my number. I don't know what anybody is up to anymore. Not having a digital footprint has made me somewhat unfit for employment within my industry. There's definitely an opportunity cost when it comes to being easily accessible via social media. But on the other hand, I'm free, completely untethered from our technological overlords. Becoming health conscious and training in my early 20s. Oh, to get 20 newbie gains. A pleasure I'll never know. You only get 1824 for 7 short years, kids. Don't waste it. Everyone always wishes they started earlier. I started at 21. Wish I started at like 16. If I started at 16 I'd probably wish I'd started at 7 and was now qualifying the Olympics. I once got this really nice book about movie effects and stuff back when I was younger and wanted to make movies. But as I got older I realized that I was probably never good enough to make movies for Hollywood. Now I am in my 20s and that's what I turned back to, and I would have had a much better start if I actually read that dang book 10 years ago. Around 10 or 11 years ago, I was on a train back to London King's Cross from Newcastle as I'd been working up there. This girl sat next to me for the journey. She was stunning. I struck up conversation with her as she was having problems joining her laptop to the rubbish train Wi-Fi, so I helped her out. We chatted the journey away. She was dark-haired, really gorgeous face. She was visiting the UK from a place I think was called Plano in Texas, not long out of college. Anyway, we swapped mobile numbers and went our separate ways. At the time, I was in a relationship. I didn't think she would ever text me, but before I even got home she got in touch and asked if I wanted to meet for a drink. I told her that I had a girlfriend and she apologized, and that was the last I ever heard of her. Can't remember her name. Never did Facebook or MySpace, so no connection there. All I remember was where she was from and how attractive she was, both physically and personally. I sometimes catch a glimpse of her face deep in the recesses of my mind. Anyway, I went on to marry my girlfriend and have 2 beautiful children. Nearly 2 years ago I found out she had been cheating on me our entire relationship with several, at least 6 I know of guys, and I'm currently finalizing my divorce with her. I often wonder how different my life would have been if I met Texas when I was single. I'd never in a million years trade my children for a go-over, but sometimes I remember her and wonder how she's doing in her life. I hope she's happy. Sorry man, that sounds rough. Also a divorcee here, now very happily remarried. You'll find someone who makes you feel like that Texas girl again. I, a lowly grunt worker, once turned down the offer of a 90-minute chauffeured car ride back into town with the chairman of the company I worked for, and the opportunity to make my case for a promotion or whatever, because I've already bought my train ticket. Big flex. Basically every time a girl shown obvious interest in having a loving relationship sex with me, but I was too dumb to realize. Ha, joke's on you, I am invisible. A friend of mine committed suicide several years ago. I had lost contact with them for a couple of years before that, but every now and then my mind wanders to the what if. What if I had just messaged them, reached out, maybe that someone might have made the difference. I got into the best university in my country for a bachelor's degree in psychology and was so pumped to go there because of how passionate I am about it. But my parents made me cancel my admission there, despite everyone begging them not to because of how prestigious it was. They enrolled me into a course I absolutely hate into a different university, and it's going to ruin my life because I don't want to study this absolute bores. You're an adult. You enroll in whatever course you want to do. Step out of the womb and into the world. I've been depressed after my best friend and crush of 4 years used me for sex and refused to be either just a friend or date me, as she only wanted to be FWB. This was right before I went off to my dream college on a full academic scholarship, which I ultimately lost and had to leave school. That's fricked. Get better, my dude or dudette. One time at Wendy's I got a free burger due to an employee's mistake. Thought I'd take it home, save it for lunch the next day, but I left when I finished my ordered meal. I left it on my tray and accidentally threw it in the trash. Still haunts me. Reheated Wendy's burgers are terrible anyways. The lettuce wilts in the microwave and the bun gets all soggy from the tomatoes in the sauce after sitting in the fridge all night. You weren't missing out on anything special. I fricked up my freshman year in engineering school, switched to business. I'm 53 and regret that every day of my life. Buying into Bitcoin when I first heard about it, wife even gave me the okay. We had a set amount to invest, but I'm too tight with money and couldn't potentially waste it despite it being a measly amount we agreed wouldn't hurt us at all if it was lost. Was a Bitcoin thread on a small forum I posted on when they were relatively unheard of that convinced me. If I'd gone ahead with it I'd have had $612,000 when Bitcoin peaked. It's one of many potentially large sources of money I could have made if I had the balls to make a move, though the Bitcoin one is by far the king. Not sure I'll ever learn to take a risk here and there. You would have sold at like $6,000. Don't sweat it. The chances you would magically know the exact right time to sell are infinitesimal. In high school, they were doing trips to Europe and I never put in the effort to go to the meetings or help fundraise, and I didn't end up going. Mostly cause I was too depressed to care, but now it sucks to think about what I missed. I'm planning a trip soon. Same happened at my school, but I didn't go because none of my friends were going. I wasn't a particularly attractive teenager. I was weirdly hairy, stocky, had crap hair, spots, etc. I had a friend who was very attractive. I got on with really well and who wasn't insane or anything else. She invited me to prom and I responded by making a gagging noise. She took offense and never talked to me again. Turns out she was interested in me and I scared her off. I responded by making a gagging noise. Epic. I wish when I was a kid that I understood the gravity of aging grandparents. I neglected to call my grandpa for a couple years, talked to him when my dad shoved the phone in my face but never made an effort to initiate. And then he died at 91. I was maybe 12 years old. I missed my chance to get to know him and I regret the ever-living frick out of that. Once I realized what I had done, I made sure that my grandma got called often, even if just to say hello. So I was roughhousing with a female classmate in a pool during a school party. She pushed me underwater and held me there between her thighs. When I managed to get back up, she said, "Tastes nice, doesn't it?" Didn't understand back then. Frick. Once I made Android app with nature pictures, but for real it was P-app. Pictures hidden inside app. It was that time when Android market just started. Price was 0.99 in 1 hour. I had 1000 downloads in that moment. I was thinking that I will be millionaire, and hour later then banned me. Mayo. In 2012 I got the scholarship from University of Waterloo, Canada in nanotechnology. I didn't go there because I was afraid of snow and long lines. One last jam session with my best friend before he passed away. It's been 2 years since his passing, and I still think about that every day. One day my dad called me and he was on his way home from work. He had picked up a big chocolate chip cookie for my son, who was 4 at the time, and asked if he could swing by to give it to him. My son was in the middle of a temper tantrum, so I said we needed to do it another day, because I didn't want to reward the tantrum. 2 days later my dad died of a heart attack. Just a moment ago, I was walking with my earphones on. I saw this woman carrying her child. She was begging for something I couldn't hear, but when I continued walking for 2 meters I can tell she was begging for my bread. Now I feel like a dickhead. I am actually gonna start crying now. Not telling this one guy how I feel. This literally just happened yesterday, but he left for school this morning, so I'm not gonna see him for a while. But basically we've flirted on and off for the past year at this point, and I said goodbye to him last night and I really wish I would have said something. I had a chance to but didn't go for it. Frick it, tell him and see how it goes. Life's too short to be regretting crap. I was a click away from buying $100 of Bitcoin back when each coin was like $5. I decided there was no way that this was actually going to be a thing and backed out at the last second. If you'll ever feel bummed, remember that a man named Laszlo Hanieks spent 10,000 bitcoins on 2 pizzas in Jacksonville, Florida, making it the first ever Bitcoin to real life transaction. This happened the 22nd of May, 2010. Imagine the money he could have had if he held on just a bit longer. 10,000 bitcoins as of the 17th of August is equivalent to $101,614,000. Mayo. When I was a frisky 13-year-old, my babysitter asked if I wanted to see her nipple piercings. It was a she, and she was very hot. I said no, but I still wondered what would happen if I said yes. Being kind of mean to one of my summer camp crushes for the first half of it because I'm an idiot and don't know how to deal with my feelings. I apologized after and was nice to him the other half. Somebody may or may not have asked me out and I may have realized after I had declined for a math test that didn't actually happen. I was in Cub Scouts until I was in 5th grade. I hated it because all the leaders except the packmaster were a bunch of overprotective moms and didn't let us do anything. I wish I would have just fought through it and went on the Boy Scouts because they do a lot more survival based stuff. Also, graduating as an Eagle Scout is extremely good for anything. Being too shy to ask someone I had a thing for. In hindsight it was obvious she was interested in me and wouldn't have been rejected, but the fear of it put me off asking. I got a credit card to pay for a rental car, and then racked up debt, ultimately maxing out the card on random bulls when I could have made a relatively small investment to set up a home studio which I could have then used to do contract work, potentially paying for itself. I could have gone into ski racing as a kid and probably done something with it, but I never had the interest in racing as a child, and now I'm an adult thinking about how much I wish I could be enjoying my life and actually trying to race and beating college races without any personal training and just backcountry and all. Mountain skiing as a kid. Could have gone D1 if I really tried, but I never did. Met my first GF in high school and we were such a sweet couple, but for some reason I was too scared to kiss her. I also feared I would do it wrong and she would laugh at me, even though that was dumb to think. I can't believe she kept dating me for 8 months without me ever kissing her. We could have been a dang good couple too, but it just wasn't meant to be. Telling someone how I felt before he'd found someone new. I'm happy he's happy. I also have a partner currently. I didn't then, but I really thought we were soulmates. He was my first real boyfriend. A girl I met at a science camp clearly liked me, but I never took the final step and kissed her. Biggest regret of my life. Not going to college in another city. I feel like I have missed out on the best part of the college years by studying in my hometown. I'm writing this more for me than anyone else because this thread is old and it will get lost. Like a lot of young women, in my college years I had a lot of bad run-ins with terrible men. I lived in a place where I was a fish out of water, deep south, and I'm liberal. Last year of college I met a guy at a bar. He was a pharmaceutical rep in town for the night. He was thoughtful, like-minded, funny and just my type, dorky in a sexy way. I was smitten. We stayed up all night kissing and talking. He was unlike the terrible men I'd met before. The next morning I dropped him at his hotel. I was still a bit drunk honestly. I think he said let me get you my card when he got it off the car. I was confused and felt like I was more attracted to him than me. I turned around in the parking lot and left, having convinced myself I dreamt his statement. As I pulled out of the parking lot I saw him leaving his car with his card extended in his hand. He dropped his head in what looked like embarrassment. I should have been a freaking woman and turned around. I should have said, hey, this was the best night I've had in years. I'm sorry I misunderstood you for a minute and drove off. When can I see you again? But I was a coward and left. This was before widespread computer use. Year 1999. So I couldn't look him up. I felt stupid and awful and have held on to that for 20 years. Curly haired glasses farm rep who came through Mississippi in 1999. I'm so sorry. I think about you all the time. I live in a developing country in South America, and when I was 16 I got the chance to go to study to Canada. At the time the only requirement was to be able to communicate in English. I was qualified. My father helped me fill the form and get the papers ready. 1 month before leaving I got my first girlfriend. I fell crazy in love with that girl, so much that I cancelled my travel and stayed here. We broke up 3 years later, but just now, 24-year me is feeling the consequences of that decision. Getting a decent job here, even with a degree and some experience, is hard. You often need some sort of lever to get in: money, connections, power. I currently live by myself, struggling to make ends meet, and with the dollar rising in value by the day, the jobs are getting scarce. You would never know for certain if it would have made much of a difference to be living in Canada, but what I know is that I'd be in a better situation right now. A once-in-a-lifetime school camp to one of my favorite national parks that I've never been to, with access to areas that are usually closed off to the general public. It was too expensive and I couldn't afford to go, but I wish I had negotiated more with my parents to see if I could pay for it with all of my savings and they could cover the rest. I'd been looking forward to going for 6 years. Now I never will. I was in a beautiful eating disorder treatment center in St. Louis from 2011 to 2012. I had everything while I was there: good and healthy friends, my own apartment, some great therapists that I felt like were actually friends rather than just paid to be around me. I was learning how to meditate. I was finding new hobbies. I was sober from drugs for like 7 months. I was the only male in a group of about 20 females who loved to boost my confidence. I was visiting home in CT for a week and decided I wanted to come home, mainly so I could go get fricked up and hang out with my old friends. I threw everything away just because I wanted to get drunk and frick some girl that ended up hating my guts a few weeks later. After I visited home, I decided to leave treatment. I flew back, packed my crap and took off. It was the worst decision I ever made. I fell back into my old habits and stopped meditating within a few months. If I just stayed, I'd be so much further in my recovery and life in general than I am now, as well as I am doing right now. I wish I had done it earlier. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.